So what's going on, guys? It's Ben here and welcome back to another video. Now, it's been a while, I know. The last video I think I did was a commentary of the Champions League, I want to say. So I missed predictions, I've missed transfer roundup, I missed the first game of the season, I missed a couple of Carabao Cup games. So I'm kind of just going to go through everything Villa related that I've missed so far, and hopefully I'll be making a video on each channel, or no, on each game, sorry, on the channel. I'm trying to just do a review of every game. Maybe I'll see if I can do a commentary of a couple of the ones, but us playing on a Monday isn't exactly ideal for me. Week in, week out at the moment. Obviously we played Sheffield United last Monday, we've got Fulham this Monday, so they're not ideal for me because I finished school about 3:20ish. So to get back and ready for 5 is just a bit too tight for me, considering I've got homework and things like that as well, which is why I didn't do anything with the Sheffield United game. And I haven't done anything for the 2 Carabao Cup games because they've both been games on a night that, first off, the Burton game was on Sky, so I figured, is there much point me streaming this when it is on Sky Sports? I know I have streamed a couple of games on Sky, but it's just a Carabao Cup game, and I don't really know enough Burton Albion players to make the commentary fair, so it'd be a bit biased, which is what I was thinking. And then as for the Bristol game, it wasn't on Sky, and it wasn't on the other websites that I use to watch games, so there's not a lot I could have done yesterday. In terms of streaming, so yeah, that's sort of just why I haven't really done anything. And in terms of predictions, in terms of transfers, it's kind of just snuck up on me this season, to be honest. I remember looking at it and thinking, should I make a transfer roundup? And then looking at it and going, there's 40 days left, there's 12 left now, and it doesn't feel like there's been about 28 days. But I'll have a look through. I'll talk through my opinion on each signing. I'll talk you through last 12 days, what I think we should do for our last transfer window. I know there's a couple of rumours going around about Ross Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I'll let you know what I think about those signings as well. But yeah, let's just get straight into the start. So we'll start off with the league prediction. After transfers, I think the big ones, I don't think I'm going to go through the entire league, but the big ones, I think for me, I think Manchester City are going to win the league over Liverpool. I just think City, with a better defence than they had last year, I think the big problem was City. They outscored everyone in the league, including Liverpool, but defensively they were shaky. Aymeric Laporte's injury didn't help. Fernandinho having to play centre-back didn't help. John Stones having to fill in centre-back when he's not exactly been ideal for Manchester City and England recently. So for me, I just think City this year, they've improved their defensive players just a little bit more. They've got Nathan Ake, and I think Ake and Laporte will form a great partnership. I like Kyle Walker, I like João Cancelo. So I think for me, City might just edge it this year. In terms of attack, I think they still have the best in the league, just about, if Sterling will stop missing sitters. But yeah, so that's what I think is going to happen there. I think Liverpool second, Chelsea third, and then Manchester United fourth, and then maybe Arsenal just behind in fifth, because I do really like the look of Arsenal this year. I think they've been brilliant in their first few games. Them keeping Aubameyang was probably one of the deals of the summer, to be honest, because I was convinced he'd be gone. Lacazette, if he picks up a bit of form, he can be a problem, mate. And then in the middle of the park, Granit Xhaka and Dani Ceballos have formed a good partnership. So in general, Arsenal seem like a much better team. Defensively, they're more solid now. We're bringing Gabriel in, so I think Arsenal could be in and around the Champions League spots. But for me, I think United edge that fourth spot. Just with the firepower they have up front. You're not going to keep them quiet for very long, are you? Martial, Rashford, Fernandes, Greenwood, James, potentially even Jadon Sancho coming in, which I may talk about. And then in terms of midfield, Paul Pogba as well. We know he has a shot on him. So, I don't know. I think the problem is defensively for them, as it will be for Chelsea and as it will be for Liverpool, as we've already seen. They conceded 3 against Leeds. So I think defensively, this season could be wide open for everyone. Everyone's attack seems fantastic, but nobody has a defence that you look at and go, could struggle to score today. You look at everyone's defence, and there's that one player you think, we can attack that player, we can get behind that player. Even with your Liverpools, even with your Manchester Cities, even with United, even with your Chelseas, there is a gap in that defence, which is why I think there's such a high-scoring couple of goals this first 2 weeks of the season. In terms of the relegation zone, for me, Fulham, West Brom, and then it's too early to tell for that third spot because Leeds have done pretty well. I think Leeds will be in and around. I don't think they'll be in it, though. Brighton look pretty good, although if they get a couple of players snapped up, I know that Lamperty's, a couple of teams have got their eyes on him now. I don't know. I don't think he'll go this summer, but I think there'll be clubs with 1 or 2 eyes on him. I think Crystal Palace could be in trouble, especially if they lose Wilfried Zaha. We're obviously going to be in trouble this year. Although I think it'll be much more clearer than last season. I think we'll be more ahead of the pack, but still technically in a relegation battle. And then it's, for me, between maybe even West Ham as well, maybe falling into that category. West Ham haven't looked fantastic. You know, they started the season pretty poorly, and then they were pretty good, to be fair, against Arsenal, but Arsenal's firepower just took the game away from them. So that's what I think in terms of league predictions. Now in terms of the transfer window, which is what I want to talk about now, Villa have made just the 4 signings, but still spent 85 million. So we bought Matty Cash for 12 million, Emi Martinez for 20 million, Ollie Watkins for 28, rising to 33, and then Bertrand Traore for 20 million, rising to 25. So these 4 signings I am so happy with. When we were linked with all 4 of these players, I thought this is a really good signing if we can bring them through, especially Emi Martinez. You know, I think we saw from the first game against Sheffield United, he's a top keeper. Matty Cash as well, he was exceptional against Sheffield United. One of my man of the matches in that game, to be honest. You know, no one got past him really, and going forward he looked a threat. He put a really good ball into the middle as well, Matty Cash. So I think he'll do well for Villa as well, and he was really good in the Championship for Nottingham Forest, and I think he's one of them players who can play in the Championship and are a very good Championship player, but seem to be able to make that step up into the Premier League, which I think we've seen a lot of things recently with players who maybe haven't been able to quite make the step up people expected them to make. You know, again, another one that falls into the same category there is Tammy Abraham. You know, he did well for Villa in the Championship, scored 26 for us, and then came to Chelsea and for a while was in the running of Golden Boot before he got injured. So, again, there's just a few of them Championship players who seem to be performing well in the Premier League, and for me, I think Matty Cash is going to be one of them. Emi Martinez, what more do you need to say than that penalty save? He looks like he's commanding, he's ice in his veins. The amount of times he got the ball, he was pressured by that Sheffield United attack, and he just quickly turned, played the ball out, didn't seem to be worried at all. So, Emi Martinez looks like a fantastic signing. Ollie Watkins, now, this one's the gamble. This is our year's Wesley, but I think it's a much more safer gamble because Dean Smith knows Ollie Watkins. He brought him into Brentford. Watkins, 26 goals in the Championship, same as Tammy Abraham, but not a single penalty scored by Ollie Watkins, which I think is the big thing, which means if you're going to score 26 goals in a season, doesn't matter what league you're in, you have to be doing something, right? And if you look at a lot of Watkins' goals, they were in and around the 6-yard box, which, you know, he's just right place, right time, you know, at the back post, ready to nod it in on free, or at the front post to flick it round and into the near post. He just seems like the sort of player who will get onto the end of that and score that chance. And I think with players like Jack Grealish in the team, with players like John McGinn, players like Conor Hourihane, he's going to get the service that he needs in the Premier League. You know, we saw it against Sheffield United. The red card came from a ball over the top that Watkins was hungry to get to. If Johnny Egan doesn't hold him back, that's 1-0 to Villa, I think, because he rounds the goalkeeper. Goalkeepers come steaming out. Egan doesn't hold Ollie Watkins back. He's getting to that ball before the goalkeeper does, and goalkeeper's in all sorts of trouble. And Ollie Watkins as well, in his first 4 games for Aston Villa. Manchester United in the friendly, scored in that. Burton Albion in the Carabao Cup, scored in that. Didn't score against Sheffield United, but won. They got a red card trying to stop him from scoring, and he had a glorious chance as well. That one where he finessed it from the corner of the box and it skimmed the bar. It was so close. If that had gone in, he'd have already been a club legend. And then a goal against Burton Albion from the bench. So in terms of minutes played to goals scored, yes, I know Burton Albion and Bristol City aren't exactly the opponents we'll be playing week in, week out. But you can only score against what's put in front of you, and at the moment, Ollie Watkins is doing that. So as long as he keeps up this sort of record of scoring every 80 or so minutes, which I think he's at the moment, he'll be a quality player. And there's no way he will keep that up. There's no way he'll keep up scoring every 80 goals, every 80 minutes. But I think we could be seeing him get 10 or 15 this season. And as for Bertrand Traore, what more do you need to say in that goal last night? You know, he just looks like an absolute player, he does. He's hungry to get the ball. When was the last time at Villa we saw a winger who'd get the ball and then run at the fullback and go, I am going to beat you, and put this ball into the middle? If you look at wingers recently, Trezeguet, El Ghazi, Grealish isn't really a winger, he drops into midfield. Andre Green, those sort of players stood head on with the fullback and ended up going back to our team's fullback. You know, the amount of times I saw El Ghazi get the ball, want to take the fullback on, bottle it, go back to El Mohammadi or go back to Frederic Gilbert. It happens too often with them, but every time Traore got the ball, yes, I know it's Bristol City, but every time Traore got the ball, he looked forwards, he looked to beat his man, and he used his class, and that finish as well was sublime. So again, it'll be another interesting one to see in the Premier League. But if him and Watkins can keep up the form they've showed for Villa in their limited time in the shirt so far, I think they could be a real threat. And I think that front three of Grealish, Watkins, Traore could be a real problem for teams this season. Defensively, we look a lot better as well. You know, Tyrone Mings and Ezri Konsa have formed a fantastic partnership. Konsa, for me, has been probably our most consistent player over the last 2 seasons. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Last season, for me, was my player of the season behind Jack Grealish. And this season, already, he started fantastically, you know. Defensively, he's just so aware. He's just so switched on. Same with Tyrone Mings. The ball over the top, he matches the striker stride for side. And then he plays the ball out. Same with Tyrone Mings. We've seen it so many times. So I think defensively, we're looking stronger. Matty Cash coming in at right back as well, I think is really helping us because he's a player who he's hungry to play. He's a young lad, he's hungry to play, and he's in the Premier League, he's where he wants to be. He would give everything for the badge, and I think we've already seen that with that Sheffield United game. You know, he had 3 shots in that game, just from getting the ball at the edge of the box and going for it. You know, and I think 2 of them got blocked and one of them wasn't too far away, so definitely, I think Matty Cash, Tyrone Mings, Ezri Konsa, brilliant defenders, and I think I'm excited to see them because I think we'll be a lot less leaky than last year. Problem for me is Matt Targett. Now, I quite like Matt Targett, but the problem is he bombs forward and doesn't track back enough. There's a couple of times where offensively going forward, he's a really good player. You know, he's there on the overlap, he supports Grealish, he supports Trezeguet, he supports whoever's on that wing. He gets beyond them and he puts a ball in. You know, I think he's got 2 goals, 5 assists last season from left back, which isn't too bad considering that we were under the cosh for a lot of the season, camped in our own half. So I think that Target ended up doing pretty well in the end. But the problem is, if that cross doesn't find someone in the middle, he's lazy to get back. And that's a big problem because even against the 10-man Sheffield United, we were caught out in behind a couple of times because of the space that Matt Targett leaves on that left-hand side when he bombs forward. So for me, I think this leads me on to the transfer sort of last 12 days or whatever it is. Last few days of the transfer window. For me, I think we need a new left-back, or at least a player to challenge Matt Targett in left-back. Because the problem is, if Matt Targett gets injured, we have to play Neil Taylor, which isn't ideal. You know, Neil Taylor is not a Premier League player. I think, if anywhere, we have the depth in the squad to replace players if they get injured. You know, Watkins get injured, Keenan Davis can do a job. If Grealish gets injured, God help us. But we do have players who can go and fill in that creative role. And this is where also the next transfers lead into as well, because we are interested in Ross Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek from Chelsea. Now, we're looking at a loan because Chelsea are quite stingy. They'll want about 35 million for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I'm not sure how much they want for Ross Barkley. But because of the rules, we're only allowed to loan one of them in. So Villa basically having to make a choice between Ross Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Now, for me, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is very tempting, but I would probably go with Ross Barkley. Simply because it takes pressure off Grealish for being that creative role. Alright, Barkley hasn't had the ideal career. He's ended up going out on loan. He's not been starting for Chelsea. But let's not forget there's a really great creative midfielder in there. And for a while, especially at his time at Everton, he was a really good player. And I think we can unlock that. And he took a little bit of that creative strain off Jack Grealish because there'll be another player who'll be in that midfield who'll be looking to try and thread the needle and play that pass. We've seen Douglas Luiz step up and start doing that role as well. So I think, for me, yes, Ruben Loftus-Cheek going box to box is a really exciting prospect for Villa. But I think for me, I'd have to go with Ross Barkley. Simply because we can't completely rely on Grealish to create all our chances. And another man who can do that is a player like Ross Barkley. So for me, I would pick Ross Barkley out of them two. But again, either of them two are fantastic signings in my opinion. And then the last position I think we could do with bringing another player in is potentially bringing in another central midfielder if we bring in Ross Barkley, because I don't think we'll have enough box-to-box. Because again, if Conor Harahan gets injured, or if John McGinn gets injured, or if Douglas Luiz gets injured, we have to bring in Marvelous Nakamba, who is a fantastic player, of course, but offensively doesn't offer that much. And the way we play our midfield, all 3 of them go up and down, up and down. You know, Harahan, he's scored quite a lot of goals, but people have been slating Harahan, but defensively, he throws himself in front of the ball. We all know what an animal John McGinn is, and Douglas Luiz has stepped into that role as that box-to-box midfielder so well now. You know, he's creating chances, he's running the midfield, pings it left, pings it right, and then works back and wins the ball back, which is not what we had last season at the start of the year. He got caught up in going forward and didn't track back as much. Now Luiz has fit into that role, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player. But the problem is, if one of them three gets injured, we lose the triangle that we have in midfield, and bring in Marvellous Nakamba, which gives us an extra, loses a dimension, because with Harahan we have the left-footed free kicks, with John McGinn we have those long shots, we have the brilliant tackling, we have the brilliant dribbling, and then with Douglas Luiz we have the ability to just produce something out of nothing. And if we lose one of them three, we lose a big area of our midfield. So I think, for me, an extra midfielder, if we don't get Ruben Loftus-Cheek, if we bring Loftus-Cheek in, I would say go for an attacking midfielder. If we get Barkley in, I'd say aim for a more box-to-box midfielder. And then that being said, maybe as well we could look at bringing in another striker, just because it looks like Ali Samata's on his way out. Wesley's still injured for another 3 months. So I think, while Keenan Davis is a fantastic player, 22 years old, hasn't played too much in the Premier League, doesn't have the greatest scoring record for Villa. I think just bringing in another striker, but possibly even trying to loan one in, I think is all we need. You know, if we just look at, just something, maybe like a player like Michy Batshuayi from Chelsea, that sort of thing. Bringing a player on loan who, if need be, can do a job is the important thing, because if Ollie Watkins does get injured, Keenan Davis has to play, and hasn't played consistent football enough for me to be able to have to play 90 minutes, which is what you would have to do until Wesley or Ali Samata come back from injury. So that's, I think, going to wrap it up for this video. I should do a video after the Fulham game, but yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.